In the opening pasukim to Parashat Chayei Sarah, we are told that Sarah passed away in Kiryat Arba. Kiryat Arba, a city in the region of Hebron, Hebron being a city-state in Eretz Canaan. Avraham makes a request of the Bnei Chet leadership to intercede on his behalf so that he can procure a particular cave situated in property owned by Ephron, the Ma'arat MachPellah. Whether Avraham was informed through Nevuah that Adam and Chava 1100 years earlier had been buried in that location, or whether this was part and parcel of a Mesorah-type transmission handed down from father to child, we are not told. The Ma'arat MachPellah was a mere 500 meters from Kiryat Arba. Nowadays it would be a 25-minute walk. The MachPellah, on the surface at least, was a descriptive and identification marker as to which Ma'ara Avraham wished to purchase. In one of the four questions, the Rebbe raises the issue recorded by the Ramban, that MachPellah as an identification marker for the Ma'ara is somewhat problematic in light of the fact that the entire region was known as the MachPellah. This is evidenced in Bereshit 23:17, where the narrator of the Chumash informs us that Vayakam Sedei Ephron, Asher b'Machpelah, Ephron's field that he owned in the Machpelah region, was transferred over to Avraham. The contention of the Rebbe is that it was this problem that motivated Rashi to offer and redefine the MachPellah in Bereshit 23:9, reading into the Chaf Pei Lamed shorish of this word, that the identification marker that Avraham used for the Ma'ara was a Bayit Va'aliyah al Gabav, a two-storied dwelling that had been built on or near the Ma'ara. Rashi then offers a Davar Acher, an alternative interpretation for the MachPellah, that it was Kefula, Chaf Pei Lamed, large enough to contain the last remains of the Zugot, the four sets of couples that Avraham prophetically envisioned would be buried in that location. Another challenge that was raised in the previous panels was the application of the multiple options rule when there are two or more options provided by Rashi to a given piece of text, which will be the focus of this panel. Firstly, the shortcoming of option number 1, a shortcoming that is addressed with option number 2. That shortcoming is a textual problem, because if the MachPellah descriptive refers to the fact that there was a double-storied building located on or near the Ma'ara, then that in of itself should have been sufficient in identifying which Ma'ara Avraham was interested in purchasing. V'yitein lei Ma'arat MachPellah asher lo, MachPellah referring to the double-storied structure would have been sufficient, and hence the added descriptive asher b'katzei sadehu, the Ma'ara that was located at the far edge of the field in question, would appear to be superfluous. On account of this textual anomaly, Rashi provides us with a second option for Avram's descriptive of MachPellah, that it refers to the capacity rather than the location of the cave, and as such, the superfluous phrase of Ad Asher B'Katzei Sadehu would no longer be superfluous. But while option 2 removes the problem of the words Asher B'Katzei Sadehu, its inclusion raises a further difficulty. That difficulty lies in the fact that when Avraham requested a Ma'ara which was at the B'Katzei Sadehu and identifies the Ma'ara as HaMachPellah, which according to option 2 needed to be sufficiently large to accommodate the four sets of Zugot, this information to the Bnei Chet would have been somewhat irrelevant. Had this request been made of the Bnei Chet after the death of Avraham, Yitzchak and Yaakov, and the wish would have been to have the bodies reinterred in this particular Ma'ara, then the MachPellah descriptive would have been appropriate. But here we are dealing with the burial of a single individual, the wife of Avraham. And while Avraham may have been, through prophetic vision, aware of the need of a cave to accommodate four couples, this information certainly would not have resonated to the Bnei Chet at the time. And this is the shortcoming of option 2. A shortcoming that is addressed with option 1, that the MachPellah refers to a two-storied structure that was built on or near the MachPellah. The third component of the multiple options rule is identifying the advantage that option 1 has over option 2, in that option 1 would appear to be the primary option. This process involves a value judgment as to which of the two options is more aligned with the Pshuta Shel Mikra. Each has a textual anomaly, as option 1 raises the problem of superfluous information that has been included into the request of Avraham. One would think that the fact that this property had a double-storied building near the Ma'ara would have been sufficient in identifying which Ma'ara Avraham wished to purchase. The shortcoming with option 2 is a structural problem with the text, in that having the MachPellah refer to the 4 couples that were to be buried there would not resonate with the Bnei Chet. It may have made sense in the mind of Avraham. In weighing up the two shortcomings, the superfluous shortcoming is less problematic than the structural problem, and hence the MachPellah as a double-storied building in the eyes of Rashi was listed as option number 1. And with this I shall bring to a conclusion this rather lengthy digression away from the core Sikha of Parshat Tazria, returning to the Sikha in part 3.